Good afternoon, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny day out there and we're all sat in the dark in here. But don't worry, it'll be that riveting that we'll all be happy that we're in here and not outside in the sunshine. So my name's Tanya Field and I work for Telefonica. It's essentially my job inside Telefonica to help our customers through the maze of what's available to them, to allow them to access content, not to dictate what content they receive, but to give them access and to facilitate the experience that they have with us. So this afternoon, I'm going to give you a few minutes of our view of where the operator role is in the digital publishing arena. Not surprisingly, for the most part, when we hear about digital publishing, it's in relation to two very big players in the marketplace, namely the iPad and the Kindle. From an operator viewpoint, we think that they were the beginning of the story, but they're not the end. And that at the end of the day, mobile operators still have a role to play in the digital publishing arena. However, that role is not a uniform one. Effectively, our belief is the role that operators have has a great variance on a per-market basis. And this is for a number of reasons, but mostly around how developed or not developed the specific markets are, and also in relation to, in those individual markets, how available localized content is for the customers. So I'm going to just briefly walk you through how we think we can work in the two different spaces with the publisher environment. So as far as developed markets are concerned, consumers have more and more choice. They no longer know where to go, how to get to things, what things to use, where the best things might be, and what devices they might be using to receive them on. They have so many choices, they are completely bombarded on a daily basis. That, of course, has the flip side issue for those of you trying to deliver content to the consumers. Because how can you be sure that you get the share of appropriate time, how you get the face time, how you get on that ever-important list of selected content that the customer wants to actually interface with. In that arena, marketing becomes one of the most important things. You need to be able to reach out to the customers that are most likely to want to get to your content. But the issue is that that can be very expensive. It can take an awful lot of marketing dollars. It can mean that you have to generate your content and services for multiple platforms. You need to therefore look at what is the cost of doing that? Is there one platform that's better than the other? How do I get to the critical mass of customers? What is the return on the investment that I'm making for the number of customers that I'm likely to get in front of? And even if I go to the extent of actually creating all of these applications, delivering against all of these environments, how can I be sure that the customer is going to want to consume my content? So for operators in the developed market, the role is really simple. It's all around being able to leverage our understanding of the customers, our knowledge of the customers, our ability to match an individual with content that they're most likely to be interested in that drives what we can offer to the content environment as a whole, not just the publishing environment, but obviously very pertinent in the publishing space. Okay? So customers are looking to find out where can they find the content they want? What do their friends like? What does Joe down the road think of it that they may not even know? What's the most used content? And all of those things can be derived from the ability to understand the customers and what they're doing. We operate very successfully in our own application stores, delivering the ability to deliver to customers very pure and simply only the applications that they can receive on their device. Anyone that works in the Android market knows that you pick up an Android phone and you cannot be sure that those applications that you want to receive are actually interoperable with your device because there have been so many different versions of the operating system. So at its very simplest level, what we can do is make sure that we only deliver to the customer the particular services and applications and content that they can actually access on their device type. And that's at the simplest level. And it goes all the way from the simplest level right up to understanding the customer, what they most like, what their friends like, what their social networks are doing, and being able to then make absolute recommendations to them as individuals. And that is the key to discoverability, because it's no longer trying to wade through an environment where you can find nothing. You're actually able to match the content with the consumer directly, and it makes a big difference. Obviously, all of this being subject to the consumer being happy for us to be able to deliver that service to them, okay? So absolutely has to be customer permission-based, and transparency for the customer, which is absolutely key. So for us as operators in the developed market, we think we're well positioned to be able to help with that customer journey, to get them to the content that they're interested in consuming. And therefore, it's a value to them, and it's a value to all the content owners out there who are trying to get through this maze of environments which hamper discoverability and cost a fortune, if not, to be able to deliver against. So if we then look at the developing markets, what are the differences in those markets? Well, of course, we still have the ability to deliver all of the discoverability pieces. But on top of that, there are other complexities in the developing markets. For example, outside of Europe and the US, many of the markets that we work in, and Telefonica is predominant in Latin America, many of those markets are drastically underserved. Quite simply, even Spanish language content is not the easiest thing in the world to be able to get your hands on as a customer. And most especially in Latin American markets where there are other challenges around the affordability of the devices needed to be able to consume this type of content. So at the end of the day, we need to look at working with the content environment to ensure that we can deliver the localized content at a cost which is suitable for that particular environment. We also need to make sure that we can reach an appropriate number of customers, and that's a totally different technology landscape, okay? So we can't play in the same way in those countries as we can in Europe because of the fact that the technology landscapes are very different. So what can telecom operators do in an environment such as Latin America? We can make sure that we can work with partners to try and overcome the high pricing of the hardware and to look at alternative solutions for delivering to market. So we become an effective distribution channel because we have many devices out there in the market. We are used to being able to deliver content to a proliferation of devices that aren't at the top end of smartphones because it's a totally different space. We do that on a daily basis. So we can help on that journey to take to a wider amount of customers the same sort of experience as you can get in the high-end smartphone environment. Of course, it doesn't mean that there aren't customers that have smartphones and some of the very high technology devices, but to get to the critical mass, to get to the numbers of individuals, we need to look at alternative technology solutions. And it's very important in those places because for the most part, in those countries, mobile is, of course, the primary internet device. So they don't have any other way of getting to digital content. So as I said, we can help, we can be the point of distribution. We have really good market knowledge. We have very sophisticated networks. We have an absolute understanding of the technologies that are needed to drive these particular markets. We have, by the way, very sophisticated marketing units that can work with partners to help to promote this type of service to our customers. We also have, of course, very integrated billing systems. So not only can we be the distribution arm, we can also affect everything all the way through to the collecting of the money. And that is not to be underestimated in places like Latin America, where it is very difficult to have a standardized billing relationship, again, due to the differing technologies. We can also control the delivery networks, so that we can make sure that it's an optimized customer experience in a space where you're looking at not such upgraded technology. And at the end of the day, we can do all of that, plus we can overlay the discoverability. It becomes an end-to-end solution for the customers. So in summary, we believe operators can help work with publishers. We can help overcome some of the barriers in the digital environment, but we think it's a different story in the developed and the underdeveloped markets. And we think that we need to look at those differences and apply those differences, work on those differences to extract the best in both environments for the publisher space. Thank you very much.